You're listening to Farang Stories, Plas Deal, Episode 5, The Confrontation. The rain had stopped at dawn, leaving behind an air so thick it seemed to hum. Pattaya's streets steamed in slow surrender to the morning heat. Plas stood at her balcony with a cup of black coffee, watching the lane below shimmer and sweat. The tailor had opened early. His radio mumbled a love song about patience. The parrot across the way was quiet for once. She should have felt lighter. The storm at the lounge 2 nights ago had been final, her words echoing in front of strangers, cutting through years of silence. Yet peace, she realized, was not something you declared. It had to decide to stay. She took a sip, bitter and honest, and glanced at the notebook on her table. The last line she had written stared back, said no, still here. She turned the page and wrote beneath it, "He will return. I must not." The words steadied her hands. Down below, a boy in a blue vest cycled past selling lottery tickets. "Lucky numbers! Lucky numbers!" he called. Plas almost laughed. Luck had never visited her lane. It only sent postcards. She dressed, tied her hair, slipped her notebook into her bag, and went downstairs. The lounge in daylight looked different, stripped of noise and flattery. The mirrors reflected only furniture. The floor held the faint ghosts of last night's shoes. Fawn stood at the bar with her calculator, tapping each key as though testing it for truth. "Morning," Plas said. Fawn looked up. "You came early. I wanted quiet." "Then you'll fit in," Fawn said, half smiling. They worked in silence for a while, cleaning glasses, restocking bottles, checking the till. Each movement was part of the ritual that rebuilt the bar daily, an act of renewal disguised as labor. After a while, Fawn said, "You spoke well the other night. Not everyone could have done that." It didn't feel brave. It was. You made a room remember its manners. Plas wiped the counter. "And made enemies," Fawn shrugged. "They were already enemies. You only removed the disguise." Plas nodded. "He'll come back. Then we stay ready." Ning arrived soon after, smiling softly as always. She carried a small bag of fruit and placed it on the counter. "Mangoes, for all of us. Sweet this season." Fawn raised an eyebrow. "Bribing us to behave?" "No," Ning said. "Just kindness." Plas accepted a piece, grateful for the distraction. "Sweet," she said. "Good," Ning replied. Sweet is rare here. By evening, the bar returned to life. The neon flickered awake, the air filled with the perfume of limes, sweat, and cheap cologne. The fans turned lazily, spreading the smell rather than removing it. The first customers arrived, men with sunburnt necks and wallets full of reasons. Plas moved among them with her usual grace, steady and precise. Every gesture was measured, every word weighed. She had learned that dignity worked best when worn lightly, like a scarf instead of armor. Around 8, Fawn came to her. "He's in town," she said quietly. Plas didn't ask who. "How do you know?" "The supplier told me. Saw him with Graham at the Hilton Cafe. Talking business." Plas nodded slowly. "Then it's not finished." "Nothing ever is. Not here." The beer man had said the same earlier, standing by his truck, counting crates twice, as if repetition could change numbers. He told them the Hilton Cafe had been loud with plans. Names of other bars floated through the steam from his coffee. Nan tied raffle tickets with hands that could not keep still. 2 regulars asked, kindly and without meaning harm, whether the lounge would keep its vibe once new owners came in. Plas had said yes because the room needed a yes. Inside, she felt the word sit on her tongue like a coin. She felt the thought sink into her chest. In Pattaya, endings were illusions. Everything recycled, just changed shape. Saturday came too fast. It was the charity night, the biggest evening of the month, and the one everyone used to prove the lounge was more than what it seemed. The morning was full of errands, collecting raffle prizes, ordering extra beer, checking that the sound system behaved. Fawn barked instructions, the girls laughed nervously, and Plas found herself swept into the current. When something mattered, work always became louder. By 5 o'clock, the sun began its slow descent behind the rooftops, throwing long stripes of gold across the street. The bar lights flickered on one by one, little artificial suns preparing for their shift. The smell of fried chicken from the stall outside drifted in through the doorway. A small boy carried a bucket of ice, tripping twice but never complaining. The first guests would arrive soon: teachers, shopkeepers, retired men pretending to be philanthropists. Plas stood behind the counter, adjusting glasses and bottles until everything aligned. She liked order. It was the only luxury she could afford. Fawn came over, her hair tied high, lipstick dark and decisive. "Ready?" "As I'll ever be." "Then we make tonight normal," Fawn said. Normal scares them more than chaos. At 7, the room was full. Laughter bounced off the walls, overlapping with the rattle of ice, the soft thud of music, and the steady rhythm of the raffle drum, which purred like an old cat that had decided to behave. Fawn held the microphone like a conductor. She had the crowd wrapped around her jokes. Pla worked behind the bar, hand steady, mind clear. She could feel the night holding its breath. When the door opened at 8 and Ethan walked in, she didn't flinch. He wore a pale shirt and the confident calm of a man who had already forgiven himself. Behind him came Graham, broad, relaxed, followed by 2 men whose watches gleamed louder than their conversation. Graham paused at the pass and told Whit the calamari was overcooked by 5 seconds. Whit nodded as if he had taken a course in time. Graham smiled at Fawn and called her boss in a tone that sounded like placeholder. He praised the turnout, asked about margins, and suggested a different gin that moves better with this crowd. He did not look at Pla long, but he looked long enough to count. Fawn's eyes flicked toward Pla, then back to the crowd. She didn't miss a beat. Pla served a customer, wiped the counter, and waited. Ethan approached with a smile that tried to be casual. "Evening," he said, as though greeting a friend. Pla didn't answer immediately. "What can I get you?" "Whiskey." "Neat. You already know which one." She poured it, placed it on the counter. "You came to drink or to talk?" He smiled faintly. "Both. But only one needs an answer." She looked straight at him. "Then drink." He chuckled softly and took a sip. "Still angry?" "I'm tired." "Tired of me?" "Tired of men who mistake control for kindness." The sentence landed quietly, but he heard it. His expression hardened for a second, then softened again. "You have the wrong idea about me. I have the right experience." He leaned forward. "You embarrassed me last time, in front of people who matter." "I matter, not in the same way." Pla wiped the counter again, her face calm. "Then you should change the people who matter to you." He straightened. "You're playing with fire, better than drowning in it." He said nothing more. He finished his drink, left money on the bar, and walked to join Graham at a corner table. The night went on, louder and brighter. The raffle prizes dinners, vouchers. A bottle of imported gin changed hands with cheers and jokes. Fawn announced totals in her strong voice. Ning collected envelopes with her soft one. The atmosphere grew almost festive, yet beneath it, the tension hummed. Pla could feel it in her bones, a pressure that had nowhere to go. Around 9:30, she saw Ethan stand. He was holding an envelope, thick and white. He crossed the room to the bar with the easy confidence of a man performing generosity. "For the cause," he said loudly. "A donation from me and my friends to help these good women keep doing their good work." Applause started, hesitant but real. People clapped because applause was easier than doubt. A local teacher stepped forward, smiling with gratitude, ready to take the envelope and pose for a photograph. Pla had to look at her when she said, "We can't take this." The teacher's smile faltered, embarrassed. That is the price of saying no in public. It lands on the innocent first. "Of course you can," Ethan said. "It's for charity." "It's not charity. It's a purchase." Laughter died. Conversations faltered. Fawn's hand froze halfway to the microphone. Ethan smiled thinly. "You think I'm trying to buy you?" "I don't think. I know. You really want to do this again?" Pla kept her voice level. This is the last time. She opened the envelope. It was full of notes, crisp and new, smelling clean as factories. She held it up so the nearest tables could see. This is what respect looks like to some people, she said quietly. Paper that solves problems by creating new ones. Then she dropped the envelope into the bucket of melted ice beside the bar. The notes darkened, curling into damp clumps. The room went silent. Ethan's face turned red. "You stupid woman," he said, voice shaking. Fawn stepped forward. "That's enough." He glared at her. "You'll regret this." Pla met his eyes, calm. "I already did. Now I stop." The silence held for a heartbeat longer, then someone began to clap the teacher, tentative but sincere. Others joined, slowly, until the sound filled the room like rain returning to a dry roof. Ethan turned, muttered something to Graham, and left. Graham followed with an apologetic shrug. The door closed behind them with a hollow sound that felt permanent. Fawn let out a long breath. "You just made history, Pla." "I only told the truth." "Same thing," Fawn said, smiling for the first time all night. Graham lingered near the doorway, hands in pockets. "You know," he said to Pla in a tone used for lost tourists, "bars run on friends. You don't throw friends into buckets." "I threw paper," she said. "Paper is promise," he replied. "You'll learn." "I have," she said, and returned to polishing the already clean counter. He watched her for a moment, as if waiting for the city to take his side, then stepped into the night. When the event ended, they cleaned in slow relief. Ning collected the donations, Fawn balanced the books, the younger girls wiped tables still buzzing from adrenaline. The air smelt of beer, smoke, and something new dignity maybe. Outside, thunder murmured far away. The night was cooling again, the streets still damp. Fong handed Pla a glass of water. "He won't come back." "No. But Graham will. Let him. He likes profit more than revenge." Pla nodded. "Maybe that's mercy. Maybe that's just men." They laughed quietly. The sound felt new, not joy, but release. In the gap between customers, Pla called her mother. "How is the leg?" "Still mine," came the answer. "You eat?" "Now," Pla said. "Good." A pause. "You sound taller." Pla smiled at the bottle shelf. "It is the shoes," she said, and hung up before the quiet tried to help. After closing, they sat on the pavement outside the bar, bowls of noodles steaming in front of them. The alley smelled of garlic, basil, and rain. Motorbikes passed in short bursts of light. Fawn stretched her legs. "You know, when I started here, I thought this job would be about tips and patience. Turns out it's about survival and stories. Hazini, is it mending?" Pla smiled. "Same thing, really." Ning, sitting cross-legged beside them, added softly, "Stories keep people alive longer than money." They ate in silence for a while. The noodles were good, rich with chili and sweetness. A cat prowled nearby, pausing at the smell of fish. When they finished, Fawn stood and brushed her hands. "Go home. Sleep. Tomorrow we open again." Pla looked up at the flickering sign above the bar. "Yes, tomorrow we open again." The walk home felt slower than usual. The streets had emptied. Puddles mirrored the sky. The sound of a far-off karaoke bar drifted on the wind. Someone singing about lost love with too much conviction. Pla passed the cafe where she had once met Ethan. The tables were stacked, chairs tied with rope. The sea beyond the promenade was invisible, only its smell remaining. She reached her building, climbed the narrow stairs, and entered her room. The fan greeted her with its steady hum. She turned it higher and sat at the small table. She opened the notebook. The last lines stared up at her like witnesses. She wrote carefully, slowly, as though the words might slip away if rushed. "He came again, tried to buy peace. I refused. The whole room saw. I am still here." She closed the book and placed it beneath the small plant pot. The leaves trembled slightly in the fan's breeze. Pla lay on her bed without undressing, hands folded over her stomach, eyes open. The ceiling above her seemed clearer tonight, as though the paint had lost its weight. For the first time in months, she felt the kind of tiredness that promised real sleep. She whispered, "Finished," and this time the word meant something. The fan hummed its reply, steady as breath. Morning returned, indifferent but bright, the lane below filled with the sound of scooters, vendors, and the familiar chatter of the tailor. The world had forgiven itself overnight, as it always did. Plas stood at the balcony, watching sunlight crawl along the concrete walls. She breathed in the smell of jasmine and rain. For once, there was no noise inside her mind, only stillness, earned and quiet. She thought of Fon, of Ning, of the women who kept the bar alive through all its tempests. She thought of Ping, far away, studying English verbs and drawing cats with crooked tails. She thought of herself not as victim or survivor, but as someone simply present. The parrot across the way woke up and squawked a half-learned phrase. It sounded like laughter. Plas smiled and raised her cup of coffee in salute. "Good morning, you noisy fool." The bird blinked and said something that might have been, "Good girl." Plas laughed. The sound surprised her, light and genuine. She turned, went back inside and picked up the notebook. On a clean page she wrote, "Today I rest. Tomorrow, maybe hope." Then she closed it gently, as one closes a story that has finally told itself. You've been listening to Farang Stories. If you'd like more tales from Pattaya, Bangkok and beyond, subscribe and share this episode.